dropped in soccer's morning show from the mountains. Once again, it is Wall Pass Wednesday, so recapping Mountains Wednesday, Mountains Thursday. Friday's going to be a little goofy because we get kicked out of the cabin at 10 a.m. So 8 a.m. start. 8 a.m. is weekend whip around. And so we'll go through all of the action, 8 o'clock hour. And there's a lot of teams playing here in this international window. So 8 o'clock weekend whip around. 9 o'clock. If Bart wants to hop in at 9 o'clock, he can. And we'll talk about USMNT. 9:30, our friends from Beyond Goals. And then we're out the door. So we head back to Atlanta at that point. And yes. Yeah, I will be. Literally, it's like, all right, so how much packing can we do Thursday night? And sprinting out the door or trying to figure out, morning, Alex, morning, Ricky, morning, Tofka, morning, Abby. Trying to figure out, okay, what door can I lock? What door can I leave out of? That kind of a thing. And then head back to Atlanta briefly. And then we have some family stuff that we do on Saturday and come back on Sunday. And then it starts all over again. So, but no, thanks for hanging out with us as we see things through a computer for the next couple days. Busy show. Siren Call has been put out, obviously, on Wednesdays. Hopefully, Dylan Butler can join us at 10 o'clock. Hopefully, Bart can join us at 10:30 to talk about national team stuff and anything out of reffing down here that stuck in Bart's collective craw over the last 7 days. Jarrett, if he can join us in hour number one or whenever he can join us, we'll be discussing Celtic and what is up with them and possibly hiring Brendan Rodgers again. Okay. You have fun with that. And Nick, Siren Call has been put out to Nick because of some stories yesterday about, in the last couple of days, about Thiago Almada and Serie A and a team very close to Nick. So we can get into the dynamics of that and also the passing of Silvio Berlusconi and what that means for Monza. And there's already folks that are looking like they want to grab Monza. And they were in the middle of with that. Bam with a promo, and we're all about promos. His Heart of LAFC recorded their 300th episode, longest running LAFC podcast. So Mazel Tov to Bam and everybody attached to Heart of LAFC. So there's a lot to get into. Jude Bellingham now apparently is ready to roll. That transfer is off and running. Looks like Carlo Ancelotti has sued Everton. Ivan Toney is not a fan of the FA and the timing that they had. Yes, Ricky, that too. That is probably also something that we can talk about with Bart. Nicaragua angered the folks in CONCACAF, and so they are out of the Gold Cup. And Trinidad and Tobago has to hurriedly bring in a squad into the group stage. So Jarrett now in. And Brendan Rodgers, I just have to say two words, basically. Brendan Rodgers and Celtics. That's four words.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you don't have to, but you can.
I know. The originality with this move, hashtag sarcasm font, has not been lost on a lot of folks, including yourself.
Yeah, man. Like, look, you were bringing. It sounds like it's going to happen. You were bringing back a manager who oversaw really good times, oversaw an invincible season, like a truly invincible season, like won the treble, invincible, and it just feels so unimaginative. Man, left you in the middle of the night to go to Leicester. Let's not get it too twisted. Like, he did have some good times at Leicester.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Like, they won an FA Cup. I think they made a quarterfinal or a semifinal in a European Cup. Might have made a
Yeah,
final.
yeah. I mean, it was that season. I mean, that Leicester wasn't chopped liver. I mean,
No,
that's
this year they were.
yes. Sorry, Nix. Yes,
But had a really good run of Leicester. My thing is, because the way Scotland is structured, I see no reason other than cowardice why Celtic or Rangers, and Rangers going with Michael Beale right now, and I think that's going to work out
mm-hmm.
pretty decently. Give him, first off, he has to shut up about complaining about transfers and complaining about money. Look, Celtic spends more money. One of the reasons is because they make money on their transfers, and
Yes.
they're not even great at what they do. Like a lot of times, they've sold too late on guys and seen value go down. Whereas Rangers could have sold Alfredo Morelos, a Colombian psychotic striker,
Yes.
Butler, could have sold him 2 years ago for a huge profit and didn't, and now he walked
Mm-hmm.
because his value collapsed. If Beale will shut up about that, I think Beale will be just fine. But because the way Scotland is structured, I see no reason why an old firm team should not employ an adventurous manager, a risk-taking manager. Try something new, try something different. At the very worst, you are going to finish second. You will probably be in at least one cup final
Mm-hmm.
because of the way the league is. Why are you going to a retread? Why are you going to retread who left you at the altar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't be his fallback. Don't be his fallback whenever he needs you. And you don't have to go get Jesse Marsh. You don't have to go get Knudsen out of Bodo Glimt. You don't have to. You don't have to go for the hipster pick every time. But Jesus is just. And maybe it works, and I hope it does because of my sanity. I hope it
Right.
does work.
True.
Um, but man, I don't know. I don't know if it does. And how long does it work for?
Mm-hmm.
How long does he stay? How long until he wins a treble, or he wins two trophies, or wins like four trophies, five trophies in 2 years?
Hey, Premier League's knocking. Hey, yeah,
Yeah.
Brent.
What, like, I don't know, man. Brentford gonna come calling? Is he gonna leave in April again in the middle of the title race? He could leave in March, whenever the hell it was last time, where he left in the middle of a legitimate title race. Like teams were separated by like 4 or 5 points, um, and he decided to leave early. Is he gonna do that again? Because
And
if he
this
goes
is
there and it works and he wins, is he gonna do that again? Go ahead.
the thing that gets me is that with that specter hanging over the organization's head, he's done it once. It's in his DNA. Why go ahead and go back down this road on the possibility that you could get jilted again? I mean, is it? I'm
It's a safe pick. Scott, the Celtics board has the creativity of a 3-day-old radish. Um,
in there.
don't forget, they didn't hire Ange because they saw something in him. They hired Ange because everything fell through with multiple people, including Eddie Howe. This was far down on their list, and it worked out. Um, I am delighted that it worked out. Don't pretend, though. Don't try and revisionist history this crap into Celtic grabbed Ange Postecoglou and you know saw something special. I mean, maybe somebody did. There were reports unconfirmed that it was like the son of one of the board members, mentioned to his dad, like,
Mhm.
hey, there's this guy in Japan who's doing great work, but is really exciting. Had been Australia's national team manager, uh, which you can get into the meritocracy of that with Bam one day if you want to.
Mhm.
That's
No
workable.
doubt. Yeah.
And then went to manage one of the Citigroup clubs and molded his style around some of the Citigroup ideas, and all of a sudden turned into this psychotic attacking juggernaut. There were unconfirmed reports that that one of the board members or one of the chairman's sons brought him to their attention, because this is the kind of move I would expect from them, just because it's safe, and I hate it. You are a Celtic. You are probably going to get your teeth kicked in Champions League. Probably going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You might pull off some fun surprise. Might happen. But you just sitting here in the middle lane, or in this case, the far right lane, far left lane, for those of you who drive on the other side of the road.
Yes.
You just sitting in the far right lane, puttering along. Whatever. You're going to try and win 10 in a row again because it means something to you, because no one's done it in Scotland. You're not going to. Beale's going to have. I suspect Beale will have Rangers cooking, at least enough to challenge you, at least enough to take at least one out of you in the next 10 years. You're not going to get to 10 in a row, most likely. You had a chance, and you gave that chance to your buddy, and your buddy hit the self-destruct button. And the reason your buddy got to hit the self-destruct button is because Brendan Rodgers left you in the middle of the night, and you had to give the interim job to somebody who could get that team across the line as a man manager. So I don't trust them I don't trust them to take chances when they should. You're an old firm club. Take chances. Aberdeen took a chance. Didn't work for them. Aberdeen took a chance, and then they reverted back to their psychotic, crawl in a hole and cry style with Aberdeen Cream.
They panicked. They absolutely panicked.
And now they have a manager who seems to have stabilized things a bit. At the very least, plays the kids.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I don't know if we ever discussed this. My favorite thing still is that when they gave Aberdeen Crean the full-time gig at Dundee, in the press release, it was like, we've hired the manager who oversaw the construction of the number 3 team in the league from last year. Dude, they were when there were times they were closer to relegation battles than they were to third place.
Yeah.
It was an outstanding turnaround after they fired him into the sun.
Yes.
After they lost to Darvel FC.
Oh
man. Hey, Ricky, yeah, we can talk about that too. Stevie G went to Saudi Arabia. That's fun.
Al Ittihad. And it is now apparent.
If there's one place he cannot slip up, it's Saudi Arabia.
Well, I mean, there's Saudi Arabia, and now he's the head of Al Ittihad, and now what he wants is that there's our friends at the Daily Mirror are saying that he's plotting a double swoop for Coutinho and Sadio Mane. He says he wants 2 or 3 new signings, and Coutinho and Sadio Mane at Al Ittihad. And
okay,
I mean, that ain't Benzema, and that ain't CR38. I mean, is Gerrard basically chasing for third here? Is that what we're looking at? And apparently, Al Hilal wants to pay Lukaku $20 million a year.
Go for it.
I mean, why does this have Chinese Super League written all over it, even though there's more money?
It's probably more sustainable.
Well, yeah, because
I don't think the Saudis aren't going to collapse through a league.
No,
because of financial issues.
Yes.
With an artificially inflated central currency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So go ahead, take the retirement league thing. We were talking about this in the pre-show. With Messi coming here to the United States,
Mm-hmm.
you have a chance to get more eyes and to build the United States more as a, hey, come here if you're that guy who is kind of in between. You're not quite to the big 6 leagues. You're coming out of one of the smaller leagues, and I use smaller not in an insulting way.
Yeah.
When I say smaller, they're still big leagues. They're still very good leagues. Eredivisie, for example. You're not Spain, Germany, France, England, Italy, Portugal.
Right.
Be that bridge if those guys can't seem to make the jump. Attract those players. Attract your Yakimakis of the world. Yakimakis of the world.
Yes.
Attract your Hani Mukhtars of the world. Have them come here. because they come here and do the damn job. Said it before, I'll say it again. America's a great place to be rich.
Yes.
If you're rich, America's a great place to be.
Yes.
Come here and make good money. If it sticks, it sticks. If you tear it up, like let's say GG goes out there and drops a Golden Boot campaign this year, which he's on pace to.
Correct.
And let's say he drops, a Golden Boot campaign next year. He'll be 29, 30 years old. Maybe he gets a call from Europe, from one of the bigger leagues. I always kept waiting for Hani Mukhtar to get that. Maybe Hani's happy. I don't know.
And then,
how old is Hani these days?
Let's find out.
Well, Hani's 28.
Okay.
I mean, I keep waiting for him to get calls from Europe. You can be that bridge, but also a place that guys can possibly bridge, but also just possibly hang around and stay and play. And that's okay. But be that place. If Saudi Arabia wants to go attract everybody, use huge money, let's be honest, some of these guys, like Sadio Mane, you're not competing for. But be the place that those guys who are outside of the top six can go. Even some of the guys in the top six, honestly, go grab some of these dudes on loan. I know Nick Theoretic will be on later to complain about AC Milan, the Almada AC Milan rumors as well. But you did it with, God rest him, Anton Walks. You got on loan. Go do it. Go do something like that. Go get these guys on loan. If you have Ange start bringing dudes in to Spurs, or if you want to work off of Darren at Newcastle, reach out and see if you can get some of these guys who are down the depth chart on loan. If you want to take a flyer on them.
Let me ask this, and this is across the board to everybody, from everybody who follows your team, your club, your league, and who would benefit more in a move to Major League Soccer than going to another European league or something like that? Who, in your mind, Jarrett, I'll start with you, and once again, this is for Twitch Pitch as well. Who would benefit from a move, loan or otherwise, to Major League Soccer as we continue to know? Who would benefit coming this way as opposed to being a cog and not getting minutes in leagues in Europe? Who, in your mind, Jarrett, would benefit from something like that?
I don't know any names off the top of my head.
No one from Celtic that or the next contract or for something like that. Who in their next contract? Who should MLS be chasing after at Celtic? Let's put it that way.
I mean, you got guys at Celtic I think would come. I think Rayo Hatate would be an amazing number 8 here. I think if you wanted him to be your box-to-box guy, and they paid $1.5 million for him, there's been talk about him going, that Spurs want him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he would start there.
Yeah.
25-year-old box-to-box midfielder was arguably the best player in Scotland after January, after he got snubbed from the World Cup. Yeah, from January on. If he goes to a English team and is a depth piece, that's the kind of guy I would want. 25, 26-year-old guy who has proven it in other leagues, made the jump, can't break the first team. Those are the kind of guys I want. I will defer to guys like Alex, though, who know their team in England really well as guys that you would want who are down the depth chart.
Yeah. And the fact that we're having this kind of a conversation, I think it benefits what we're seeing out of Major League Soccer, where it is now a destination for the 20-something instead of the 30s, and destination for the inbound. It is also a destination for the shrewd club that has brought folks in that are in their late teens, early 20s, and have a lot of room left in their careers, where now Major League Soccer is being looked at. I mean, we go back into this window. I mean, you mentioned Brenner's heading to Europe. Brenner's in Europe. So, and there's the talk of Thiago Almada. and various and sundry teams that are chasing after Thiago Almada now. And you're looking at a shrewd piece of business incoming for Atlanta United. And the question is, I mean, if you don't, you've got the option right now that you don't even have to worry about picking up the phone if someone sits there and is like, "Yo, Garth, Mr. Logaway, what about 25?" It's like, who? Wait, new phone? Who dis? I mean, you're in that once again where Atlanta United's at the front of the line when it comes to transfer fees, and now, and to Bam's point once again, MLS has done well by moving away from being the retirement league, and you're becoming a more transformative force here in Major League Soccer, and that was why I wanted to bring that question in as an inbound, because if you bring in somebody like Hatate, that
Like
has
a dude like Kyogo Furuhashi, who was the 2 times now Scottish Player of the Year.
2 times.
He won the Golden Boot this year. He's 28. He should be looking. I think he should be looking at that move to the Championship or Premier League. He's that age. This is his chance to get a bigger contract. And if it's Championship, so be it, man. If you want to go to England to go live out that dream, go for it. Try and latch onto a Championship team that might make a jump. That's that age group, though, like that 27, 28, 29, where you're looking at maybe your last big contract. Those guys, I think, would be a guy to possibly make that move. I don't know. I would love to I would love to see Reo Hatate here because of the absolute hell he put an entire country in. Will that happen? I don't know. Probably not. I choose to dream, though.
But the fact that we're having this discussion about these kinds of individuals, once again, I think it speaks to where Major League Soccer is going as opposed to where it's been.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you probably find guys in England who are, like I said, who are in that vein of depth guys who aren't getting starting minutes. They might not be getting a lot of minutes at all. And you might want to bring them in. You might want to bring them in on a loan with an option to buy in case it clicks. You never know.
And, when hopefully Nick can join us this morning, the next time that Nick joins us, definitely getting into the discussion about Thiago Almada and a club very close to him. But yeah, the fact that you're not picking up the phone unless it's 30 or 35. I mean, that's the fact that we're having these discussions. I think that it speaks a lot to what we've seen recently. We've gotten into transfers and player news. Is north of, I think it's like 115. I think is the number that was punched. Kylian Mbappe, and this is the thing. Since we didn't have a show yesterday, we didn't even have the chance to talk about Kylian Mbappe sitting there sending a letter going, "Nope, I'm done." And so now PSG has a year to figure it out. They have a year to figure out the next destination, Real Madrid, of Kylian Mbappe.
I mean, I assume it's going to be you're going to sell him. You don't want him to walk.
Yeah, no. So you've got that year to figure out. Okay, what can we get for Kylian Mbappe, and then try to figure out. Okay, where can we go next? And I mean, now there's the round table. Morning, Tom. Now there's the round possibly being recruited by PSG with with Mbappe on the exit. Could Harry Kane be a part of the inbound? And Jarrett, you had mentioned silly season being silly season, and we're not even officially like in windows and things like that. We're not even here in the window here in the U.S., and it's already beyond silly just with all the names and the financials that are being tossed around. And we're nowhere close to being done.
No, we're not. And look, Atlanta's going to get really stupid. And this is the thing that I am very tickled that everybody's anxious for Atlanta United rumors. but I would imagine they're going to come at some point. We talked about this during the offseason when you were looking to fill some spots. Like, rumors will eventually hit. And I'm still sad we can't use our rumor sounder because WWE hates fun. Makes a lot of Vince.
Yes.
Sorry, Junior.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna stick that on the end of that. One day he's gonna find me and I won't care. I'll die a happy death. Sorry, Vince Jr. But eventually you will hit rumors and things. It might be one of those things where it hits the ground and it moves really quickly over the span of a week.
Mm-hmm.
It is June 14th today?
Yes, 6/14.
It's June 14th today. I would expect, the second half of this month, and you saw the Almada rumors start to pick up. I would expect the second half of this month and then July as well to be jumping.
Mm-hmm.
Whether those rumors are substantiated or not remains to be seen. But you also remember, because everybody is still up in arms about the idea of Messi and how the contracts will, how you can make it fit in Miami. Again, you buy out Pizarro and fire him into the sun, or sell him at a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Campana, you might sell or buy down.
Yeah.
I think Joseph's listed as being, but I think that's split between. I think we discussed. I think it might be split between what Atlanta's paying him and what Miami is paying him.
Right.
But he's. Let's see. Then you've got Gregory, and I believe you could buy down. I believe you could buy down Gregory.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, you can change things. You can sell guys. You can drop them off the roster. You can loan guys out. You can use your one buyout. But for Atlanta, like, the idea of inbound rumors is an interesting one, simply because you don't have a spot right now for them. Now you can have rumors, and I get that, but you don't have a spot right now. Like, Luis is going to go.
Yeah.
Which I know people were kind of. I know he changed a bunch of stuff to his future club. Which, okay. Were people upset about this? I'm genuine. No, I'm curious. Like, were people upset that he did this? Because this has been a really tense relationship between Luis and the fans, especially this year. And it very much just seemed like he is not happy because it hasn't gone well. And I know the fans aren't happy. Like, were people mad that he changed his stuff? Because the animosity has been there. Like, yeah, he wants to move on. I don't blame him. It hasn't worked.
Yeah, and I when I saw Luis had changed his Instagram to reflect Flamingo, I was like, that's the next stop. Your last match for Atlanta United's in 10 days, and you're heading to your new destination, and you're heading home. No, I bear him no grudge for something like that, none whatsoever. And so, it's I didn't get it bent out of shape about it. I don't know how many other folks did. So, and let us know what you thought about that kind of a thing. Yeah, and to the point, Parzival, people he says people just need something to be mad about, and disappointingly, that's true.
Happens. Yeah, I was just like, but when they were like, he's changed his stuff. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
There's been tension between him and the fans, and yeah, he changed his stuff because he's looking for the next step. It happens, because not every move works, and yeah, I don't really care if he changes his stuff.
I get it. I completely understand it. I get it completely.
I'm not losing sleep over Luis Araujo changing his social media stuff to his future club that's back in his home country.
Right. No, absolutely not.
If it makes you happy, then do it, because at the end of the day, your own emotional well-being is incredibly important and should not be ignored. So if that is going to help you be in a better place, by all means, click that little edit button.
Mm-hmm. Parzival, in discussing inbounds, apparently sightings of Pogba at the Benz after this past home game. You never know. Flo Pogba was here? I was not aware that there was a Pogba inside Mercedes-Benz at the last match.
Man, I hope it was Flo just to make people go crazy.
Yes.
Flo Pogba, who earned the game-winning penalty
Uh-huh.
in the original AmFam Cup, who told us after
Yeah.
the game, I just felt contact and I fell over. He didn't know how to dive. He's a defender. He said, I don't know how to dive. He said, somebody touched my foot, so I just fell down.
Yep.
Man, I miss Flo. Flo was a fun player.
Yeah. Flo drive you
That would be
crazy, I'll
amazing.
tell you that much.
My God. Yeah, it's going to be. Who might Tom asked who might be out. Yeah, it was Campeones Cup, not AmFam Cup. I'm sorry, you're right, Ricky. I'm forgetting my my mythical cups, and I'm getting them confused. It's the Campeones Cup, which the Campeones Cup will forever matter here, just because it was one of the funniest games ever. Simply because you had two clubs who rolled up into it. Everyone, media and fans, are like, "This is just going to be an exhibition." Oh God, they're using live rounds.
And
those aren't practice sabers for fencing. Those are actual sabers. This went from being like everyone thought they were getting basically the fencing duel from the Princess Bride. What they really got was Harvey Keitel and the Duelists, if you've ever seen it.
Yes.
One of the best movies, one of the best like French revenge period pieces ever. And also a very good demonstration of how sword fights go in a duel, because the clashing your swords and dancing isn't as nearly as important as not being stabbed. And everyone in that movie conveys that emotion very well of goal number one is to not get stabbed.
Yes. Avoid the pointy part from the other.
But everyone in that Campeones Cup expected Princess Bride, and they got the Duelist, and they didn't know what to do with it. And that trophy will always matter because Club America and Atlanta both were attempting to murder each other in that game, and it was amazing, and it will always matter.
One of the best calls from Lorenowitz bomb.
Yeah, the deflected Lorenowitz bomb.
Jason goes, ooh.
I don't take the deflection. I don't take anything away from Lorenowitz on the deflection because he hit it at Mach 3. As far as people going out, yeah, Ricky. Wait. Oh, that was a thunderclap. Like, I'm getting thunderclaps around my house right now. It's weather ain't friendly this morning. No. But as far as outgoing, we know Luis. We know Almada's probably that guy. If someone drops $30 million on Thiago Almada, he's not coming back till winter. If someone drops 30 plus million on him, 35, 40 million, he's leaving that day.
Correct.
That's
correct.
Fine. That being said, Santi Sosa is an interesting one because I still do like Sosa, and it's hard to forget what we saw from Santi in 2021
when he was healthiest of healthy.
He was healthy. He was good, and we thought, "Oh my God, oh my God!" Like, we got another young Argentine who's going to be worth so much money. If he can't seem to stay healthy, though, I think you start looking at Emerson Hyndman related things.
Yeah,
not necessarily just like reaching a mutual buyout. I think you find somebody to take Sosa because
send it to Memphis 901.
No,
like Emerson
Hyndman better than that. No, Emerson just created what might be the best midfield USL there, because Memphis's midfield was already really, really good, and Emerson makes them so much better in terms of depth. Terms of depth, they don't have a drop off now. But yeah, I wonder if Sosa is, especially with the Johnny Fortune developing. And they're not apples to apples. But I wonder if getting some of this development frees up that opportunity. Because that too, I don't think it's going to leave. But if you can improve that position, I think if you can, we talked about this in preseason, that if you can improve that position, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sejdic is still a really good guy to have on this team.
Absolutely.
Well,
and I mean, it comes down to the development and where they think the progressions are with folks like Tyler Wolff, Jay Fortune, Noah Cobb, Tyler Wolff. Those guys that we have seen since their time with the twos, turning over the keys to those guys for your roster spots.
And you're going to have to make room for them at some point to be those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how. I don't know to what extent you do that. We'll have to see.
And I think that once with Luis leaving, then that obviously
it frees up that wing spot, and I think you could TAM that spot.
Yeah.
Because I think if you can improve that midfield spot, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you want to run Caleb and Tyler Wolff out there a couple times and see what happens. See if putting Etienne on the right kind of helps him out a bit. You can go find wingers, I think.
Yes.
But you want to build up that spine, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if you end up going and looking to improve that position. Then you start making decisions about, Sosa, do you play it out, because then you, especially with Ozzy coming back, do you look to see if there's an offer for him? Are you looking for something with a guy like Kazetsu or Sejdic, either one, if a Johnny Fortune is going to be that guy who you're going to give a spot to and you're going to give minutes to? We talked about this before with when you give those to young guys, you're going to have good games, you're going to have bad games. We had this with George Campbell last year.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to know that you're going to get the good and bad. Both of them are going to exist.
And with with the Nations League and Gold Cup, you're going to have that opportunity to have those younger players showcased. And it will be interesting to see what it looks like with previewing. This is probably previewing Bart to a certain extent. But the roster that was released, we knew Miles was going to be taking international duty. We knew that was coming. But how? Yeah, I almost feel like Ross on Friends, except why? I guess I could get why. Why is DeAndre Yedlin there and not Brooks Lennon?
I mean, there's a couple other guys you could. There's a couple other backs I'm sure you could find in this league who would be good right backs to take. That's not Brooks. That's not DeAndre Yedlin, who's at this point. DeAndre Yedlin getting Gold Cup spots is like handing out the Golden Glove to Derek Jeter at the end of his career. What?
That's like Brendan Rodgers going back to Celtic.
No, it's like giving Derek Jeter the Gold Glove at the end of his career. You're doing it off of what happened years ago. What he was. It's really dumb.
I just, are you that? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Are you that quote unquote out of ideas to where you said, yeah, DeAndre Yedlin, that's a good idea for a team that is last in the East. For a team last in the East, yeah, we think that that's better. And Michael, yeah, definitely to your point. From an Atlanta United perspective, nothing wrong with being a little selfish. Fine with Lennon not getting called up, have enough players going, need to limit injury risks.
Oh yeah, no, I'll be selfish about it, and I don't want him to go. It's the same thing. It would have been really cool if Caleb had gotten a call.
Yeah,
and he didn't. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Absolutely,
it'd have been cool for him, but now we get him. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It'd have been really cool for him though.
And you're like not a surprise at all. Yeah, and Ricky, I'd be more annoyed if Yedlin made the Copa America roster. Jarrett is going to be fighting the weather because here in the mountains, all right, I'm going to exit the frame here, but I'm still going to talk. See that? Okay, it is gray. It is gray. But apparently, and I am a good 60 or 70 miles north of where Jarrett is now, that since, as you can tell by the backdrop. Bam, we'll get into that in a second because I loved what happened. Apparently, and those of you have been mentioning it in the Twitch pitch also, that it's apparently pretty nasty. It's apparently pretty nasty in the Atlanta area. So, that's right. Michael is at what shade of gray? It is varying shades. I'm closer to the Casa. It is darker, but the further I look off into the mountains, and it might be just the angle of the earth. It is more of the dress gray uniform. Right above the Casa, the further away you go, it's more just the very, very boring gray. Yes, Michael, please head for cover. And for those of you that may not know this, Michael gets to hang out at Stone Mountain Golf Course these days, the golf club. So if you're ever out at Stone Mountain and you get the chance, yes, it is a gradient. Yes, it is an absolute gradient, Hutch. So if you're ever out at Stone Mountain, you might be able to see Michael head. But Michael, please take cover and be safe. Yes. Big lightning strike heading. Go into the clubhouse and enjoy the rest of the show. So let's see if it's a big lightning strike in Stone Mountain. Then it's Ricky. It is heading your way. But no, it is. We are apparently not supposed to get the rain and the nasty today. We are just supposed to get this grayness with the outside chance of rain. And like I said, that's, the beauty of being 70, 75 miles north of everybody. Just be safe, first and foremost. Hopefully, we'll catch up with Dylan Butler at 10 o'clock and Bart Keeler at 10:30, weather permitting. Now, since it is a Wall Pass Wednesday and anything is on the table, who am I kidding? Everything's on the table every day. Bam, what we thought about the reverse boycott yesterday. Last night in Oakland, for those who may not know, the fans in Oakland wanted to make a point to the owner and the team president for a team that's 18-50 and is the hottest team in the American League right now, having won 6 in a row going into last night. So they organized a reverse boycott to prove to Major League Baseball that the narrative being pushed by the current owner and by the commissioner that the fans are the problem and they need to leave town and all this kind of stuff. Well, if you have, I don't know, animals living inside the press boxes and broadcast booths to where you can't actually function, that might be part of the problem too. But last night in Oakland, Ricky, if I was you, I would do that too. I have a detailing coming up, and I've tried to keep it outside as much as possible. Ricky's debating whether to leave his car outside and get a good rinse. But last night, the fans they want to prove to Major League Baseball that they were not the problem. So they ended up having 27,000 fans show up, and they had tailgating out in the parking lots. And one of the supporters, one of the fan groups, I was about to call them a supporter section, one of the fan groups for the Oakland A's put together, and I've got to figure out how I can get them. Yeah, they got the next step going, Ricky, as much as the owner is trying to screw this up. They did get public fund approved for public funds yesterday. But what they ended up doing, one of the fan groups came up with $5 T-shirts that said "sell" on the front. Sold out all those T-shirts. There were 7,000, and the crowdfunding made it happen to where everything in Oakland went out last night. And then one of the cool moments is Nick Alifi comes in, weather permitting, where you had fans standing silently for the first pitch in the bottom of the fifth. And then once that first pitch was made and you actually heard the contact of ball to mitt, then the fans started chanting, "Sell the team, sell the team." It was a very cool moment last night in Oakland, even though we know they're heading to Vegas. Nick Alifi joining.
Greetings.
And greetings and salutations. Hopefully you're staying dry, sir.
For the moment, yes.
Now, we've been talking about transfers and possibilities for Atlanta United, ins and outs here in the first hour.
Mm-hmm.
Who from overseas would benefit from a move to Major League Soccer the most as an up-and-coming talent? But one of the stories that came out yesterday and 2 days ago, and this is why I wanted to have you come in to give some structure, was the possibility of Thiago Almada to Serie A.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted you to give the structure and the just kind of the background as to the team that's been mentioned, possibilities, probabilities, context, all that kind of stuff. So, Nick Alifi, engage.
Yeah, so the world of Serie A has kind of been, lack of a better term, really chucked upside down as of late when Juve ran into their tremendous legal troubles. Then you have Inter that's on the verge of bankruptcy. They always seem to, they're like the Saints. They keep finding money someplace. It's just one of those weird things. But Milan, who under the stewardship of Redbird and Jerry Cardinal, have really started to take a Moneyball approach to player acquisition. And I had a pretty lengthy Twitter conversation last night with the gentleman who disagreed with a lot of my points, but this is essentially what my opinion is on it. Everything that I'm seeing is that they are using metrics to build out a player acquisition list. Mm-hmm. And the order of operations for them will be free transfers, players who are on expiring contracts, or contracts that have been mutually terminated. And then it will be players of very low transfer fees. And then there's player trade. So they definitely want to be engaged in player and asset swaps. I think it's just part of the new post-COVID world. This is something that we talked about at the height of COVID, what contracts would be looking like, transfers would be looking like as these margins became extra thin. Player acquisition and player movement via trade, it was going to be something that would be more likely to take place. And that's simply because you have some players like in Barcelona who love living in Barcelona. They love that big contract they're getting, but the contract is Barcelona, the team is essentially upside down now in the contracts that they have to pay out, and they're not getting return on investment. And now the players don't want to leave, and you can't really do anything about it. There's a similar situation taking place right now at AC Milan, which is Charles de Ketelaere, the Belgian midfielder, needs a fresh start. He's on a contract to like 2027. Pioli is not going to play him. It's not going to happen. It appears that the shirt is just a little too large at the moment for him, a little too heavy. And you started seeing names kicked around as of late, like Thiago Almada to Milan, as a potential attacking midfielder option. He would be great at Almada at Milan. I have no doubts about that. The idea of him pinging passes to Rafael Leao is just wow. It's what I can think of. But at the same time, for the numbers that have been rumored and floated on what we believe it would take to get Almada out of Atlanta, I mean, you're talking about the 30 million range, 30 to 40 million range. I don't think Milan's paying that. I just don't think so. They wouldn't pay it straight up. I think the best option, if I'm building out a deal on the Milan side, would be that I would offer 20 million in 20 to 25 million in cash and an extended loan for De Ketelaere to, sort of regain his footing before bringing him back, because the player has no value right now in Europe. The likelihood of him being taken back by another club is, a club that would be willing to pay you any amount of money to keep that deal from being a complete wash. It's pretty slim. So I would recommend a loan deal that he comes and plays in MLS. He's 22 years old. There's a lot of upside to him. He was one of the hot prospects before the wheels sort of fell off at San Siro. So that's a deal I would make if I'm Milan. But at the moment, and this is where the pushback last night came from the gentleman I was talking to. There's a belief that Cardinal and Moncada and Forlani are willing to spend, but spend responsibly, in order to get the team to be competitive and maintain their top 4 position. I'm sorry, you have players now who are turning down free transfers to Milan and going to places like Roma. Indica did that. He went to Roma, a Europa League team, as opposed to going to a Champions League team in Milan. Mm-hmm. That should give you an idea of what the player mindset of Milan is after they got rid of Maldini. No one is going to pick up the phone and be like, "Oh my God, I'm talking to Moncada. Oh my Lord. I can't wait." I mean, so, a lot of the big swing that they had with Maldini in the room's gone, and you're going to have to spend to show that you are serious about competing in Champions League and serious about competing within the league. Almada is a player who I think is worth that money, but I just don't see Milan ponying up that cash. And for anyone who says, well, Milan's building this brand new $1 billion, live, work, play area, in the San Donato district, that's great. I'll believe it when the posts are in the ground. I absolutely don't believe that in any stadium deal in Italy until I see like significant construction taking place. Outside of that, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. The municipalities are far too, they'll say yes to everything until it comes time to, put pen to paper, and then all of a sudden they pull back, and then it becomes this negotiation all over again. But Redbird is in a weird spot because a large chunk of the fan base is up in arms and ready to revolt. And so they have to spend money to show that they are serious about competing. Because right now, if you go online and you look at any Jerry Cardinal interview, it's all about value and profit and stakeholders and margin. That's not going to win anyone over. And so they really need to spend cash on 1 or 2 players to say, hey, look, we have intent. But I don't see Milan doing this. I'm sorry. For anyone out there who's very excited about it, I just don't see it happening. That I don't see them doing any kind of major sell-on. 20% is probably the max sell-on that I would see them doing. Tops. Yeah. Because their acquisition strategy is, buy very low, sell very high, maximize that profit margin. They don't want to carve off profit margin if they don't have to, which is why I think De Ketelaere would be a part of the deal as opposed to a sell-on. Because if they can rehab De Ketelaere somewhere else in what they consider to be a lower league, then it's a double win for them. Because when De Ketelaere goes back, he's either a contributor to the team or they sell him and they, break even or make money. So I don't see a sell-on being a part of the deal. I think, and I agree, Tafka. I completely agree with what you're talking about there with De Ketelaere. I need minutes and confidence. I think that's exactly what he needs. And I think here he could get that. It would be a smart move for everyone involved. Atlanta would not take a significant step back if Ketelare comes in here and performs as we know he can out of the gate. Dest, I don't know if you. I don't know how we would utilize him. I mean, you'd have to get rid of Lennon. That was going to
be my follow-up question. Yeah.
Yeah. With Lennon, he's performing well. Obviously Dest would be an upgrade, but Dest would also require DP money, right? And that's tough for me. And I don't think Dest is in a different situation. In that I think he can go back to the Netherlands and you could find a buyer there for him. De Ketelare is, Club Brugge is not getting him. I don't think Club Brugge is going to be reaching back out and be like, yeah, send them back. It's no problem. I don't think there's a lot of teams that would be open to spending the money necessary to get him there. And I don't know if there's enough teams that would be willing to take on a loan deal for him at the moment. Stands to see. But as far as, what I'm seeing out there right now is that this situation is going to require a player moving along with cash if Milan gets the deal done. Dest can be a part of it, sure. And also, but I think De Ketelare needs to be the main one. If you're Atlanta and you're trying to find somebody to plug in, obviously De Ketelare I think would be a downgrade from Almada, but I think there's a tremendous ceiling for De Ketelare as well here. But it's going to be cash and player. That's just my 2 cents on it. Anybody who wants to argue with me is welcome to do so. But I think that's where we are at the moment.
And part of all of this has been the interesting aspect that we're actually having these kinds of discussions about player plus massive amounts of money and or sell on. And after a week's absence, because to mankind, Dylan Butler.
What's up, guys?
It is Nick. It is John. And obviously you can tell I am in the mountains this week, as you can tell by the background with the outline of and I just realized this. As I look over my head, there's an outline of a moose that is like the edge of a lake. So it's like the outline of a moose that creates the outline of a lake with trees and things. And so I didn't realize that until I just started looking at this thing behind me. So, but now, Dylan, we were getting into the discussion this morning as Bart Keeler will join us to talk about the MNT coming up at the bottom of the hour. Oh, first off, what's the mug?
Oh, we're going dad today.
Okay. So there he is.
There we go.
The nutritional facts of dad. When it comes to Atlanta United specifically, there's, I don't know if you can call it lukewarm or, whatever temperature you want. Now, Thiago Almada is now being discussed about going to Serie A, and Nick being the information, Serie A was kind of breaking things down. And, the fact that you're looking at a player heading to Serie A, probably as a part of the discussion we get into transfer windows. The fact that we're having discussions about $30 million, $35 million transfer fees and things like that, and it's where MLS has grown to, and that's kind of been what we've been talking about. A destination for players coming inbound that want to improve, and also now outbound over the last couple of years where Atlanta United's led the way in transfer fees. Where this MLS 3.0, I think this could be a very rather impactful transfer window to discuss MLS 3.0.
I think huge in both ways, right? Obviously the everything will be centered around Lionel Messi coming here, but with his arrival comes added interest and new rumors and all that sort. Miami suddenly becoming, Barcelona, South Beach, it appears from all the rumors. But Yeah, I mean, for the outbounds, 100%. And look, I think Atlanta deserves a ton of respect, because whatever number you put Miggy Almiron in, like whether that was 2.0 or 2.5 or what have you, they set the bar in terms of this whole bringing in the young players, giving them a chance to grow and develop their game, and then selling them off for millions. And obviously Miggy going to Newcastle, a club close to my heart. Yeah, this that started the ball rolling for a lot of other teams, and we've seen it with NYCFC, and their players. We've seen it. Alphonso Davies with Vancouver. He was a homegrown, a little bit different, but 100%. I think this is why it's becoming such a destination league for those younger players to realize, like, if I want to get from where I am to get to one of the major leagues in Europe, this is a great spot on that rung of the ladder to get there.
Nick Alifi for Dylan Butler.
Yeah, I agree, and I think because when we talk about like the tier 1A player that's going to leave like a River Plate or a Boca and go directly to Europe, that pool is not extraordinarily large, and there's a lot of like 1B players who are very, very good but not quite in a position to make that immediate jump. The MLS is perfect for them, and Messi coming here now makes it where it's okay for a lot of these players to be like, well, hell, Messi's in this league. I mean, obviously I can go there and play. I mean, that's a great thing, right? I think it's going to open the eyes of a lot of agents, especially. I mean, players are one thing, but a lot of players are going to listen to their agents. If their agents say, hey, look, I'm putting you in the same league as Lionel Messi, that's going to open a lot of conversation doors for agents and players. And then the teams themselves in Europe are going to have to start looking over here as well. And as the economics, COVID really pulled the curtain back on the economics of big time football and showed that these margins that they're running on are extraordinarily slim outside of a very, very select few teams. And they're going to start fishing in different waters now. I mean, you see Milan, that was a giant, right? And they're talking about like, well, I don't know if we really want to spend 30 million on a player. And, where are they going to shop now? They're going to shop in the same waters as MLS, and they're going to shop MLS at some point as well. So, this is MLS, 3.0, if you want to apply a number to it, simply because of Messi's arrival. It's a conversation starter. It's a door opener. And when Messi says, yeah, I'm going to enter Miami, he's not just opening the door. He's like kicking it down like the SWAT team. And it's as some of his buddies come and join him there, these conversations that we're all going to have are going to be very, very interesting going forward.
I think Dylan agrees with you. I mean, it's Dylan. It's been now that Nick has brought Messi and Friends to the floor as a conversation piece.
Is that the new show that they're going to have too, Messi and Friends?
Well, that if it's just as impactful as the Messi and Friends tour that he had, where folks thousands of dollars to go see him at Soldier Field to get a meet and greet, and all they got was the match and like Messi blowing through the door on the way out.
Well, yeah. Messi got he provided an assist to like a former college player that I think is like was something of note during that particular game as well.
Yes, right. Exactly. You look at Messi and Friends, Dylan. Obviously, Inter Miami at the bottom of the table in the East. They need a lot of help, and they need a manager. The deal, by the way, as far as I know, is still not completely completed.
There's so many. There's so many different aspects to it. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a while to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and put the initials on every little part of that, because there's so many, right? There's Adidas, there's Apple TV, there's the league, there's Inter Miami, there's so many different parts.
Have we reached NIL deals now for Major League Soccer? Because considering where we are when it comes to the constraints that currently are in salary structures for Major League Soccer where you're having, this is the first NIL deal, I think, where you're having corporate partners be pieces and parts as the supplement to whatever you're going to pay Messi, which I imagine will be more than what Chicago's paying Xherdan Shaqiri just on principle at a little over 8.4. But you're right now, unless things change, and we'll get into that, I guess, subsequently, you're going to have to be real imaginative if you want to bring in superstars like this. And right now, Inter Miami is doing that.
Yeah, you're right. You have to in the current structure, and they're going to have to be even more creative should the friends portion of the Messi and friends come as well, right? So it's going to be one of those where, is a Jordi Alba going to like make $100,000 and yet suddenly there's 30 million in sponsorships? It is interesting sort of how these things will be put together. That is for sure. But this is what I think the wheels were in motion with with Apple TV, and now there's that worldwide reach. Messi now obviously further elevates the whole microscope on the league, and I mean, in a piece that I wrote for OSDB, I mean,
there you
go. Everyone has used the word. I'm not, it's nothing new for me to say, but just it's a transformative move, right, for this league. There is nothing previous to it. You can make the argument of Beckham, and obviously, if you go back in the Kevin Bacon sort of way, right, like Beckham does open the door for this to happen. Right, like his entrance to the league gets the whole DP thing moving, and the thought of a global superstar coming here. But and obviously, with him being in Miami because of his own extra bits on his contract. But yeah, I mean, this year is absolutely like no other in Major League Soccer. That is for sure.
Nick, go for it.
I think that, I'm old enough to have been a part of the David Beckham, year one world tour that took place. And I went to Frisco, Texas for FC Dallas game versus LA Galaxy. And it was Beckham's first time there. And it was like a concert environment. I mean, the whole crowd, was nuts. And I was fortunate enough to be sitting right next to the Hunt's box. And they were, because this is what happens. My ex-wife's aunt was a county commissioner for Plano, Texas, and so had access to the county box. And so she was like, I don't really care about soccer, but I know you do. You want to come watch a game? Sure. And so I'm sitting there. Next thing I know, I'm next to one of the Hunts. And I'm like, wait. They're like, so is this a normal crowd? He's like, no, this is a little bit larger than we normally get. The crowd's a little more raucous than we normally get. But it was a transformative moment for the league. And, but the difference is with this, there are kids in Botswana who are going to know who Inter Miami is. There are kids in Singapore who are going to know who Inter Miami is. There are going to be kids in Mongolia who know who Inter Miami is. And that's what a move like this does. And I think the NIL, because I mean, I don't really know how else to classify it, is probably the best move for MLS going forward, because the old NASL days, you had two teams that had all the money. The rest of the teams really languished as a result. So the salary cap needs to stay in place, I think, because it's one of the most exciting leagues in the world from a parity standpoint. Anybody can jump up and, grab the ring. It's not like everywhere else where you have two or three teams competing nonstop for the title. But if a player says, hey, I want to come to Atlanta or Seattle, and, if they go Seattle, hey, look, Microsoft, we want to get this player in, this is something that this guy's really into gaming and technology and all this stuff. Why don't you guys, talk amongst yourselves? We're going to leave the room. But all you have to do is help facilitate the meeting. All of the clubs that MLS occupies, or that occupy MLS at this point, are taking place in large DMAs, right? Large markets, largely. that should have no problem facilitating these kind of meetings. And, for all these other players who are like, well, where's my money? Where's my sponsorship? Get better and make yourself more marketable. This is going to require everyone to step up and improve themselves. And we don't necessarily have to say, okay, we're going to have, 5, 6, 7 DPs on the field at a time. If somebody can go and get that NIL deal, for lack of a better term, we could put governance around it, just like they do for college, and say, all right, you have an NIL deal for the length of the contract, outside of behavior clause, it's guaranteed, right? And you sign the deal. That's kind of the deal that takes place. That's how it has to be done. And there are places and people who will do it, I think.
Piggybacking off your Beckham memory, I was at the game at Giants Stadium, that incredible, I believe it was 5-4 game with the Red Bulls and Galaxy, where Beckham does his thing. He's booed at the corner flag, right? Like in typical New York, New Jersey fashion, right? Like every time he touches the ball, he's getting booed. And I remember Juan Pablo Angel scoring the winner late, Josie out the door. It was like his big early moment in his career, like his coming out party. There was something like 75,000 fans there. Like it was such an incredible. I still remember, like, I was there, but then you would always see the replays on the old Fox Soccer channel with Max Bretos doing the call. Like it was a scene, that is for sure. And the press conference, the Beckham press conference was separate than the other press conferences, and that happened maybe about an hour or so after the game, hour and a half, out in the old Giants and Jets training bubble outside of the stadium. So it was certainly a long night in East Rutherford that night, but it was a lot of fun.
And just think about where we're going to be with that. Think where we're going to be with it. With Messi, it's going to be absurd. It's going to be absolutely absurd. And I think that this needs to be the kick. And John, I'm sorry, I think I was interrupting you. They're taking off, but I think this is the time for MLS to grab a hold of these teams. And I await the hate mail that's going to come my way from this, but to grab the teams like Philadelphia and San Jose and some of these other teams and that are perennially low spenders, and say,
you throw the Red Bulls in that mix too, Nick.
Red Bulls, yeah, and say, look, it's time for you to elevate your game or get out, because we don't need teams that are, hey, we're going to use just a strictly metrics-based approach, and we're going to sign like the Division III water boy to come in and be our starting 7. No, it's time to really invest in resources, not just player acquisition, your academies, to build out your facilities, your training facilities. There's no reason at all why every team shouldn't have what LAFC from a training ground has, what Atlanta United has from a training ground, what FC Dallas has from an academy standpoint. There's no reason at all, with a player like Lionel Messi coming in this league, why you cannot have the top end facilities. And if you don't want that, get out, go buy yourself a USL lower division club, and still be a part of the sport. Help grow the sport. That's fine, but don't be a part of the top tier in this country. So, John, you want to direct the folks where to email Nick?
Well, the Twitch pitch will be fired up as well. They know how to get in touch with Nick on the Twitters. So is this, do you think, to Nick's point, is this the siren call to figure out, okay, which owners are serious about going to MLS 4.0, or is this just another part of, okay, yeah, we get it, y'all can hang out if you want, but is this that call to sit there and it's like, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to have a ceiling cap, we're going to have a ceiling floor. Who wants to invest can invest, and if you don't, we'll find out who's serious, and then we'll figure it all out. Where do you think this is?
I think it's a combination. Yes, it's a large part of Messi's arrival, but also this coincides with Leagues Cup, right? And obviously, all the talk here, whether it was the Champions League or even internationally, is about US and Mexico and where are we and where do we stand, and league wise, are we gaining ground on Mexico? Well, here's the thing, right? Like, Mexican teams spend significantly more on their roster than MLS teams. So if you want to get to that point, and I think Steve Cherundolo said that pretty eloquently in his post-match press conference after they lost in the CCL final, like, you've got to raise that limit, right? Like, you've got to be able to have, players 20 to 25 still making a good amount of money, right? Like, it can't be just your top 4 or 5 players. So I don't think the league goes into I don't think MLS goes into a Leagues Cup thing where all of your teams are playing all of their team. Like, I don't think they go into it blindly, not thinking about, like, they don't want to get embarrassed, obviously, right? Like, so you don't want to have a Final Four of all Mexican teams. You don't want 2 Mexican teams in the final. So I think I have no inside knowledge on this, but I'd imagine something of a new salary structure is on the horizon, because you don't enter competitions like this with an unfair, salary structure.
Yeah, and I think to Dylan's point, the main issue has not been the stars, right? The main issue has been the middle of the roster,
right?
Where teams have been exposed in these situations. So that's why I say I don't think like a 4th or 5th DP is really the answer. I think a general raised cap that allows teams to heavily invest in the middle of the roster, and that's going to make you more competitive. Because if really right now MLS teams have been fighting, in CONCACAF Champions League with one arm tied behind their back, and that we've had some teams like Toronto and Seattle really put the heat to Liga MX teams. I mean, that's really saying something here. But we have to address the middle of the roster, and especially because I'm sure everyone else has seen the rumor as well, and the rumors are rumors, but that it was even generally tossed out there that MLS clubs could be invited to Libertadores. Mm-hmm. I mean, brother, if you're I watch Libertadores. I know John watches Libertadores. Dylan, I'm imagining you do as well.
Yeah.
That is a different tournament. You're going to really need the middle of that roster built out if you want to compete in any of these. So, that's to me, that's where the investment really needs to come in.
Could you imagine, Dylan, the first exposure that MLS teams have in the Copa Libertadores to the crowds, to the officiating? I mean, if they thought CONCACAF Champions League, for those that get into CCL, is one thing, what's it going to be like when these clubs get into Copa Libertadores, allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe, perhaps?
It harkens me back to the whole, Toronto, the tunnel, all the tunnel incidents. Like, that's nothing compared to potential tunnel incidents and touchline incidents there, man. That is a whole different animal.
Well, no, because I remember that. Was it Newell's where they were playing somewhere, and Newell's was being beaten by like a 3rd division team or something, and like the fans went nuts, ripped a hole in the fence, and threw a toilet on the field. I mean, like this is a different ball game, and I think that it would be great for Argentina, not just Argentina, but a lot of these South American clubs to have an opportunity to play, MLS teams, not from a competitive standpoint, but really to say, hey, look, see our number 8 over there? He's really good, huh? You wanna put in a little transfer bid?
Colombian teams.
Yes.
Teams. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Just
all of the recruiting that could be going on by Major League Soccer playing in Copa Libertadores. I mean, those of us who are like part of the Sickos committee who would be watching RSL playing Almirante Brown, I mean, we'd be sitting there and we'd be digging it. We said, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll take that dude and that dude and that dude." Literally,
so then LAFC will play 95 games that season,
right?
Yes. and LAFC 2 and MLS Next Pro will probably only win one match.
But and that's but the schedule congestion is a thing that's having to be addressed around all around the the world. So it's a matter of the MLS is going to be dealing with the same thing as the dollars start pouring in. Do you think Stan Kroenke's really going to turn down the opportunity to make an extra buck by sending one of his teams to Oh my God, he's please, yeah, absolutely. I completely endorse this sending our teams to South America for this tournament. That's one thing about our system is that all the people who I think a vast 90+% of the owners of MLS teams are all billionaires, right? And the one thing they love to do is make an extra dollar. Why have $1 when you can have 10? So they're going to take every opportunity to make that money, but they're also going to make sure they hedge their bets and reduce their risk exposure. So that's where the NIL type deals come in. That's where maintaining a cap and a floor, I think, is critical for this league. And a lot of these guys are deal makers, and if you possess the resources and ability to outfit your team in insane ways, by doing these NIL type deals, hey, amen. Have at it. I think, look, Paul McDonough's going to be looking back like, well, why was it wrong when I was doing it? Now it's okay for everyone else. It's like, hey, look, man, the game changes, the situations change. We're not talking about paying people. It's like the old days in college football where we had the bag man handing off cash to recruits. Yeah, $100 handshakes and the liners removed from team bags and replaced with cash. I mean, but now we're just putting it out in the open. Let's make it so it's out in the open and everyone can be a part of the process, and players have the ability to make the kind of money they want to make. I'm not concerned about the Saudis trying to offer these insane deals. I would rather have these kind of NIL deals for players who are 21, 22, 23 years old, who we can then sell and make a ton of cash in the process, help those kids achieve their dreams and help us put stars above crest. I think that's a win-win for everybody.
Help me, help you. NIL. Question from Jason Nix, wrapping up with Dylan Butler. Does FFP take stuff like that into consideration, meaning an NIL-esque model? Or is that even a thing in Europe? Teams hiding owned endorsements.
It is a thing. It is a thing in there, but it's more governance on how the team is involved. The rules. It's been a minute since I've looked through the legalities of financial fair play, but there are ways to sort of skirt it, but the team cannot be involved. So the team would not be the one facilitating the meeting. So like if an owner for Reading had a company, a subsidiary of one of their main orgs, and funneling money to a player, that would be out of the question. But if some other team or some other company rather cut an endorsement deal, that would be, as long as the team is not involved in any way, shape, or form, and it can be proven.
Okay, so that's the difference. Dylan, what's going on with OSDB and MLSsoccer.com?
Will OSDB Sports will this week we'll dive into kind of a viewer's guide to the Leagues Cup for those who are who don't know about it or are new to the idea. So we'll break down some of the top players to watch, games to watch, teams to watch. And then in the weeks that follow now, I think about a 4-week countdown, we'll get into the Women's World Cup and talk about the key players there and teams and key matchups there. And for MLS, we keep on keeping on, right? Like it's not as hectic a match week this week, but still some matches to keep an eye out for. And of course, Nations League as well, coming up tomorrow. So
yes.
Big doubleheader there as well. So I'll be on for those as well.
Well, and as always, my friend, Varsity Media on the YouTubes, even if there's nothing live going on in the high school game. it is. You can always go back and watch Dylan on Varsity Media on YouTube as well. A man after my own heart. Dylan, as always, great to catch up with you, my friend, and we will catch up with you again next time around on a Wall Pass Wednesday.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
The daily allowance of dad being taken care of there with the mug. As always, it's great to catch up with Dylan. Great to have him on the show every Wednesday where we get to talk stuff. And that's the official term. Tafka, once again, other questions. How do you allocate teams to Libertadores with all the top teams also qualifying for CONCACAF and for Leagues Cup? Something would have to give. Oh, I don't know about that. I'm sure that they would find a way to make things scheduled and get everything all laid out where it's everybody goes. You figure it out. We'll just figure it out as
well. I think Don Garber would essentially be like, hey, guys, I'm not telling you to tank in your U.S. Open Cup games, but I'm just saying. If you want to field a whole team of U15 players, that's your business, not mine. Libertadores is a lot of money.
Yeah. So. I'm thinking that might. You could do. Well, I mean, look what LAFC did when they were in Open Cup. They brought in their MLS Next Pro team, and they were competitive. They beat Monterey Bay. You could do the same thing.
I don't think a lot of USL teams would be mad at that because let's say you have Birmingham, right? And Birmingham jumps, LAFC's MLS Next Pro team and moves into the semifinals. You think Birmingham's going to be mad at that or say, well, we should have played the first team? No, they're going to be like, nope, we are moving on.
We're cool because we're playing in a semifinal for a trophy that could get us into the CONCACAF Champions League tournament.
Correct.
And Tafka, working all of his calendar and team specific math, is he says the only way that he could figure it out is remove the CONCACAF qualified teams from Leagues Cup and send them to Libertadores. So I want everybody in Libertadores. I want Atlanta United playing Defensa y Justicia.
Yep.
I mean,
if for those who don't watch Libertadores, every game feels like the AFC Championship game. Every game feels like it's the greatest because you have a team like Defensa y Justicia with like 15 lone players on it going against like Santos. And it's the crowd is at a fever pitch. The whole stadium's rocking. The police with the riot shields are out. I mean, it feels like
get toilets thrown at you if you stink.
Yes, you get toilets thrown at you if you stink. It's a magnificent tournament. So if you get the chance, just watch Libertadores, and you'll see what we're talking about. And just imagine like a Red Bulls team going to down to Altamonte Brown or Boca.
That'd be amazing. Parsville, did we ever get an answer on Gigi being on national duty, counting as him taking his yellow card suspension? If it just so happens that the next match is MIC, and your games are the 16th and the 19th, and you're done with international duty. That last match is the 19th. So if it just so happens that you're done with international duty and NYC is right there, I would think that the calendar is there to assist in that matter. In that particular regard. So no, I don't think there's any kind of a conflict one way or the other when it comes to GG and national team duty and that red, but I mean, and the yellow card accumulation. But I'm going to say this again, and this might be something that we get into with Bart. The thing that gets me is that Birnbaum should have had a yellow already for basically plowing through the back of Giacomakis and hitting him with a forearm in the back of the head. And then you end up with the yellow that Birnbaum got a couple of minutes later. Frankly, DC should have been down to 10 men. They should have been down to 10 men. And from there, I think that the game still would have ended up with the result that it did. But the idea that you end up with the physicality of players unchecked, and this particular center ref that we had in Filip Dujic averages low 20s when it comes to numbers of fouls called, but he only gives like 3.14. So he's like pi when it came to yellow cards. Doesn't give a whole lot of yellows, doesn't call a whole lot of fouls, but the whole notion once again of communication with this early on. If you're going to let things go, let players know. And we start talking reffing down here, and Bart Keeler his
so sorry. Someone at work wanted me to do work, and
no, that is not allowed, sir.
I was highly offended by the notion that I should do work while working.
I mean, seriously, and Nick and I kind of got into reffing down here as a lead-in unintentionally to you.
Oh, wonderful.
And the whole idea of the Birnbaum contact with Giacomakis and just the lack of yellows that were the lack of conversation that was happening with Filip Dujic and the players. Communication. Now, when you're teams, or I guess this is it's a two-pronged thought here. So let me see if I can parse it. When it comes to going into a match, when you are a center ref or with your friends who are center refs, do you have conversations leading into matches about how you're going to call a game stylistically? Do you sit there and I'm going to be even-handed about it? What are those conversations like, if they do even exist going into matches, about how you're going to call a match?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be part of your pregame to kind of go through your style of refereeing. Mm-hmm. If you may need to adjust that style for the specific game you're about to encounter. I think we've talked about this a lot when it comes to Philly games or Red Bulls games where, yes, you do have to approach the match with a understanding that these teams play in a way that does increase the amount of, let's just call them tense moments within a match. So yeah, you should be having that conversation before the match, but I mean, you're also not going to change completely. I mean, do you expect Atlanta United to become a bunker team?
Yeah.
No. So the way you see in referee matches is not going to change that much, at least game to game. Again, there are things that you might be looking for. There are things that you need to personally be attuned to. Certainly, the same way that Atlanta United was aware and attuned to the fact that Tyler Miller comes off his line a lot. But because not every match is consistent.
Yeah.
Not every match is the same, right? So yes, again, you're not going to change your style, your general approach, but just as Atlanta United is not changing their style, philosophy, or approach, their tactics do change. Again, perfect example, and they talked about this after the game. Atlanta United, we don't typically go that direct, right? But we saw that with DC's high line, our speed on the wings and Yaka's speed up top, and the fact that the goalkeeper is likely to come off their line, that was a specific thing that team does that Atlanta United needed to adjust to. So from a referee perspective, there are certain things that teams do that you have to be aware of, that you have to be attentive of. And so no, you're still trying to be consistent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Atlanta United is going to, be different than New York Red Bulls. Atlanta United is different than Seattle, even. Inter Miami is a very bad team, but that doesn't mean that they don't deserve, your attention as a referee to understand how they play the game, to look for certain things or look out for certain things. I mean, Jason's talked about it ad nauseum on the show. We do not protect star players. Now, we can get into the philosophical debate if that should happen or not. But I think very much so this year that referees have, and I know it's not every game, so please don't get on to me, but there has been a noticeable improvement in referees giving persistent infringement yellow cards or, yellow cards about stopping promising attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been something that's clearly been noticed by the league. And they have adjusted to that. Because again, you're also going to adjust throughout the season where, you know what, we're actually seeing a lot of this type of thing going on, right? It could, I think the biggest one is like the shirt pulls on stopping a promising attack. We've seen a lot of that this year. In the beginning, they weren't quite as prompt in giving out those yellow cards. They have been now. They've been very upfront about that. So consistency, yes, I understand what you're saying, but not every match, not every game, not every team is going to be the same thing.
John, you're getting attacked by robots, man.
I am.
I don't know. Maybe, might be mine. Might be my signal that's going.
Okay. Duck out and come back in.
No, I can hear you clearly now, but
it's the weather here. The weather here and the weather there are the same. So
yeah. But look, officiating it's a tough business, right? And I firmly believe that one of the key issues that we have in this country, and I've said it many times, is we the fans from the youth game up are damaging the pipeline of referees working their way up to the top tier. And so the ones that we have to work with are essentially it's all we can work with. I'll put it that way. Philosophically, yes, we will have differences on whether star players should be protected or not. The main issue that I have is teams like Philly, teams like the Red Bulls, St. Louis. They are essentially daring the referee to affect the game early. And that's the challenge that I have, is that, and that's the issue I have from a consistency standpoint, is if a team is daring you as an official to change the game, take them up on it. Okay, cool. I have no problem affecting the game. But then the poor ref gets hit with, well, the referee's making it all about them, and they want to be the star of the show.
Ref show.
Yeah, it's like the team. And I wish that the referees could be more open about it and just say, look, Philly was daring us to essentially to change the game by their use of physical play, and it's we had to essentially take them up on it and call them on it. And I think that's the only way it changes, is, by having that kind of transparency. And I think that's the one thing that's missing from Pro Now is I hate their stupid little show where they come out and say, we screwed up in Atlanta for the 18th time this season, but we're not really going to do anything about it. But yeah, this is what happened. I think we really need to have more transparency when it comes to pro on why these calls take place, and and really have it where the official needs to answer for some basic things, and have the ref give the ref the room to be honest and say, look, number 9 was being extraordinarily physical and dropping back and clipping heels, and it was starting to get dangerous because he's raking Achilles. How long should I let that go unpunished? I had to make a call. I made the call. Yep. Okay, cool. Thanks, but we appreciate it, and you're still going to get a stick, but at least the official has the ability to protect themselves by making their own calls and making it known to everyone else. That's just my 2 cents on the matter.
Well, and yeah, that's that. you're completely right in that I think pro being a little bit more transparent would be great. I also, again, wonder what I would like to see transparency in the process of review and coaching of referees, because that's something that we've talked a lot about, where we're not sure what I don't even want to say punishment, but the course of action to correct the mistake is. I don't necessarily think that referees should be banned from, or sit out a game because they messed up a procedural issue, or depending on what it is, or they missed a penalty kick. So that's not why you sit a referee out. But what is the course of action to say, okay, well, this is how we as an organization review matches with referees, because they look at the tape just like a team does, and how we're trying to get this referee to understand, why this is something that we want to be called, or why this should have been called a penalty, or why there should have been a yellow card. So that, I'm with you, Nick. Like, I would like to see more transparency in just the overall, this call was made for this way, but I would like to see what that process for course correction is as well. Two things we won't get.
No, we're not getting it, unfortunately. Look, and that's the thing, is I get how hard it is to be a ref. I understand. It
is the hardest sport to referee. I truly mean this, because there are 3 guys out there, maybe 4. Only one of them has any real decision-making power. That's so different than any other sport that we see. We just watched an NBA Finals that, I don't think there was any real referee problems there. Granted, the Nuggets kind of put that out of any doubt. But you got 3 guys out there making calls. They all have their own autonomy to make these calls. Soccer, we have one dude.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna miss things.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the top tier, right? You have someone who's in their 40s or 50s running with people who, these like 22, 23 to 28-year-olds, and who are in peak physical condition. You're going to be, late, with regularity.
And should there be, like we've seen in the National Hockey League, should we have 2
No,
refs?
I'm sorry. I don't think so. I think that would bring more inconsistency to the game. I really do. Go watch a high school game.
Mm-hmm. I've been there, brother.
Nick, you know what the best compliment I've ever received about my refereeing was?
What is this?
I was refereeing a 16 ECNL match, and there was a breakaway run going down the opposite side, and I was sprinting my little butt off to try to get to the other side, and I passed a kid on the field. I passed a player, and he goes, "Oh, you're fast." Best compliment I ever got, and I was like, "Still got it."
That's right. That's right. And look,
it's like, good. I could kind of keep up with 16-year-olds. Great.
Nice. I don't know if you saw this, Bart. In Soccer America, Mike Woitala came out with an article, and the title of the article, it's an op-ed from Woitala. Okay. And he went into the LAFC León match, quoting Stu Holden after Sifu kicks Lucas Romero from behind, swings his right arm at neck level, plows through him. Stu Holden says that's a smart tactical foul in the moment. And then Romero had received the ball, and Holden says it's not a bad yellow to take. So holding a cheap shot in an incident he himself described as ball is gone, he knows the ball is gone, he's trying to take him out. Condoning of foul play comes frequently from soccer broadcasters who embrace euphemisms such as professional foul, emergency break, tactical foul. Also prevalent is ignorance of the rules, according to Woitala. Earlier in the match, Deno Maldonado was competing for a ball with Alvarado. Doesn't get a call. Then Walter Lopez yellow cards Maldonado later. Holden says it was a makeup call, an evening out of things. Are soccer commentators, do refs deserve better from TV commentators, do you think?
The only thing I respect about Alexi Lalas is that he went and got his referee certification and has refereed, not high level, but I think he's refereed some MLS Academy games.
Yeah.
Nothing against these players. are former players who are now commentators.
Mm-hmm.
But they, as players, have a vastly different view on the game, which is the view that matters most in the commentary box. Let's just, that's fine. But they don't know what it's like to be a referee. They have no real formal training as a referee. Some of them probably have, I'm sure they understand the laws of the game from a application standpoint, but there's theory to the laws of the game that they're not instructed on. There is interpretations of the laws of the game that each specific league even kind of divvies out. Now, I'm sure that they've been given the documents or the presentations that the league gives to the teams beforehand of like, okay, we're calling these fouls or not. But yeah, no. They're parroting what they have always been told or felt as players and not looking at it from a referee lens in that perspective. But again, that's their job.
Yeah, it's
Well, and here's Woitala. Well, so let me give you Woitala's thoughts about what a commentator should do, Nick. Then you can dive in. And the fifth one, Bart already mentioned. Bart said, referee some soccer games, then decide if you're still comfortable praising foul play. Woitala says, read the rule book first and foremost. To read for opining on whether it was or was not a foul. 3, if you do jump the gun and the replay refutes your knee-jerk speculation, this is Woitala talking, just admit you got it wrong instead of embarrassing yourself more by contradicting the up-close, slow-motion, high-def replay we're seeing with our own eyes. And then 4, after a ref's call, share what the rule is with your audience by reading or accurately paraphrasing the section. It should be a big part of your job to ensure your viewers are accurately informed. I mean, Jason does this a lot in broadcasts. So those, Nick, are the 5 points that Mike Woitala makes. You have thoughts?
I think he nailed it. I think that part of the issue is that when you are behind a mic and you are broadcasting anything, right, there's ego involved. For you to get behind a microphone and say, I am going to tell you, the audience, what's going on. And I need you to believe what I'm saying because I am an authority figure. For something to go wrong on your end and say that's a clear foul, that was a foul that absolutely should have been called. And then you go back and you have this thing in Dolby Vision playing back to you that clearly shows, no, it was not a foul and the ref made the right call. It is incumbent upon you to say, you know what? I got that wrong. And we don't want to do it because our ego's involved. And our ego says, the minute I admit that I'm wrong on something, the audience is going to give up on me. And they're going to say that I'm not a reliable narrator of what's happening. And that's false. I'm sorry, it is. And I think Jason does that really well. I think Mike does that really well. I'm in my infancy in this world, and I do my best to try to admit when I'm wrong. But at the same time, I understand that I have an antiquated view of what a foul should be in the defensive third of a game. I understand that because I grew up watching Serie A in the prime, where unless you were getting a tibia broken, play on. And it's just not the way the modern game's played. And it's on me as the dinosaur to evolve or I go extinct. And that's on me to do. That's not on the league to change. That's not on, that's not on the fan base to change. It's merely because nostalgia is the last refuge of a person with no hope. And I am hanging on to this nostalgic view of what defending should be. And if I'm going to announce games, if I'm going to commentate, I have to make sure that I'm in step with the modern game. And if I can't do it, then I need to step back and let people who are in touch with the modern game do the job. And I think that that's what people like Lawless, who takes his little wrestling heel persona way too far, doesn't do. I think that Taylor Twellman, puts himself so far out over the skis that he won't allow himself room to do that. So then he spends the next 20 minutes after a call trying to gently, switch back and double back and, but all while trying to save face instead of saying, guys, I think I got that wrong. What am I doing here? Just don't put yourself so far out over the skis. But that's on us as commentators, man. It's on us as opinion havers to get out there and admit when we're wrong, because otherwise, we're the problem. And I think that's part of the issue with the refs today is they know they're going to get nuked by us idiots with the microphone in front of us. So it's on us as well.
So Bart, are all of us TV commentators idiots? Do we need to rep a match?
Yeah. Well, again, look, I think that there are I know there are 17 laws of the game. About 8 of them aren't really necessary to understand fouls, and not like the first 7, 8 are about what the field looks like and how many players should be on a team.
except in the Bronx, yes.
Yeah. Or if you're DC. Still not sure how that one happened. But look, there's 17 laws of the game. It's not a very long rule book, to put it mildly. And again, you can skip. I mean, you don't need to read about the field of play, the ball, and all that kind of stuff. That's not relevant. But well, it is relevant to me. But anyway, you can just read it and understand what the laws say, right? I mean, we talk about this. I talk about this a lot when I'll be refereeing a game and a kid puts a foot high in the air, and I get parents on the sidelines yelling, "High kick!" That is nowhere in the laws of the game. It falls under playing in a dangerous manner. It possibly falls under kicking an opponent, but both of those require other things to happen, right? The act of putting your foot in the air does not equal a high kick. You have to be playing in a dangerous manner, which requires most of the time another player to also be involved. It could be kicking. If you make contact with the person, then we've got a direct free kick foul. But if putting your foot high in the air was a infraction alone, we wouldn't have bicycle kick goals.
Right.
So, again, just slightly reading the laws of the game, understanding what things fall under, what actions are allowed, what aren't. That is the first step, I think, it should be in commentators understanding what referees are going through.
All right.
Some of them maybe do it. I don't know.
Some maybe.
I've done it. I've refed a couple of games before, just especially when Jack was younger and a ref, I missed a start or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But even as everyone on the sideline knew, all the family members knew that this is just some dad coming in to make sure the game can be played. And I still got yelled at.
Yep.
Oh, come on. What? And I looked at the parent. I'm like, dude, if you want, come on out. Like, yep. I'll go take my seat. No. And then they get quiet really quick. But it is an extraordinarily difficult job. And I wish the cartoon characters who have TV contracts understood this. That they and look, I salute Lawless for going and getting his ref license and actually trying to do the job. I wish he would shut the hell up from his wrestling heel persona, but it is a difficult damn job. And I make jokes all the time about trying to pay off refs, during games, but it is,
it's the Italian in you.
It is. Look, we try to. We have a history, man. But we have a reputation to uphold. But
well, if you were Greek, you'd bring a gun onto the field. So at least you're going about it in a slightly more ethical way.
Exactly. Yes. But I will say that there are some refs who, when they announce who it's going to be, automatically it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, because we know it's coming.
Yeah.
Right. And so those are the ones where if you have something that's identifiable, and you are not actively working to make that, that problem go away and or fix the issue, I don't know what you can do. And as many times as, Ted Uncle, who I refer to as Drunk Uncle, because of some of his inconsistent calls, I'm glad they go back and watch games, but I really need somebody sitting with them and being like, and this is where you shouldn't have swallowed your whistle.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm saying too, Nick. Is like I think that is what the next step pro needs to do is, and the problem is this also requires like qualified and experienced referees to help train as well, because you know, and we're not there yet. We're just not there yet. You know, as a nation that's still developing soccer players and the way that they need to be, you know, playing soccer. We're still developing referees, and it's a shortage because we just don't have that many people who are knowledgeable enough about the game with the experience and dedication to do it.
Yeah, and you know, if you're reffing kids games nowadays, you have to be like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt to protect yourself from some of these idiots who are who drove in a car for 2 hours to get to a tournament, and it's something that has to be addressed.
Yeah, it causes a lot of problems, and there's a whole lot that we could talk about, but
we'll have a separate show for that.
Yeah, it really could be. It really could be.
One thing I will say, we've been doing this, like soccer has been going on in this country for a very, very long time. It has not been at this level at all until 1994. And 1994 is a blink compared to what Serie, because the Prem is not exactly terribly old, but like the top flight English game,
top of the British pyramid, yes.
Ligue 1, La Liga, all these teams, all these federations rather. They've been doing this like Milan, on Milan's crest. It says 1899.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
MLS like 94. Okay. So I don't think people really comprehend the absolute insane growth. This is like Barry Bonds level growth. Like, oh God, how in the hell did they get this big this quickly? We are going to have and with this level of growth comes growing pains. And we're, part of this, if you've done any sort of operations work in any sort of corporate environment, the good operations people identify faults and weaknesses quickly. And the fault and weakness in this league right now is the fact that we do not have a steady stream of competent, stable, and consistent officials from the youth game to the top. And the problem is us, the audience, because we give these kids so much grief. They walk away from what should be a very easy payday, an easy way to earn cash. We chase them out, but it's a growth. It is the growing pain right now in this country is a lack of officials. We're getting better on coaching. Resources are more readily available for people to learn. We've always had talent, but now we're finding new and better ways to get this talent exposed. As we see kids getting shipped off to Germany to ply their trade. Same in England, same in Italy, and this is tremendous growth. We've only been doing this since 1994, and that doesn't get discussed enough.
And Nick, to kind of build on that, because there's comments about like, oh, well, this needs to be in place quicker and all this. Okay, I agree. In 1996, the league started, right? That's the timeline for that, I guess. The first academy came out in the mid 2000s, almost a decade, 15 years later for some clubs that were founding clubs of this league. An academy, something integral to developing soccer nationwide and for the clubs and for the league. So if it took us that long to even get that process and system in place, that's still, by the way, that's still a fairly quick timeline when you consider, again, like you said, the blink of an eye. The referee development, which is not controlled by MLS clubs and is controlled by US Soccer, which is doing 18 other things as well, it is going to take time, and it's the unfortunate. And because the other thing is these referees, it takes a lot longer for them to become good referees, right? If you're in the academy system and you start at 13, 12, 13, whatever it is, depending on the academy. Okay, so in 6 years, you might be a first team player. I can tell you this right now, if you start at 13 as a referee, which you can, you're not refereeing MLS matches for another 20 years. So,
Yep.
and that's if you stay with it and go through all the processes at an expedited pace. So we all agree the refereeing needs to improve. It is improving. I promise you it's improving. I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what Ismail Elfath did at the World Cup this past year. He was very highly regarded by FIFA, okay? It's improving. But it's going to still take time, and I'm sorry.
Yep.
We do have I do have a national team question before you.
Well,
go.
we play tomorrow. We play our best friends from south of the border, who, by the way, might I saw Rob Us retweet that he quote tweeted Felipe Cardenas, who said, "Stop me if you've heard this before. The Mexico coach is under hot water," and Rob jokingly said, "Wow, they're going to fire 2 coaches before the U.S. hires 1." So that's the state of things right now as we head into the Nations League.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have one rhetorical question, and then I guess a logistics question. What are you up to in the 9 o'clock half hour on Friday morning?
Well, let's see when I wake up, John.
Okay,
it'll be a long night,
yeah,
but I should be available if you want to talk Nations League.
I do
on Friday.
Yes, because we need to talk before they kick us out of the cabin here at 10 o'clock on Friday morning. But why was DeAndre Yedlin picked ahead of Brooks Lennon?
BJ Callahan is the assistant to the interim who has never been a head coach before, and whose role in all the processes before becoming the interim head coach was to assist Greg Berhalter and Anthony Hudson in game modeling, in scouting, and to some extent player selection. He is not experienced at picking a squad like this. He just isn't. Obviously, he's been an assistant for a long time, and so he has been part of those processes and part of that input. But this roster is very much BJ Callahan picking the guys that he knows and trusts. DeAndre Yedlin, Aaron Long, Christian Roldan. These are guys that have nothing to offer the U.S. men's national team in this cycle, in my opinion. But they have been a part of this, and so BJ picked them.
Just checking. It's just it looks like, and we were trying to figure out a question from Ricky Ricardo about a Johnny Fortune, who I guess is now Jay Fortune, going to be on the Gold Cup squad for Trinidad and Tobago.
He was on the squad for the prelims, so now that they're officially in the Gold Cup proper, because Nicaragua fielded an ineligible player for 5 minutes. Yes, he's on the squad. Unfortunately, now we miss him for more time. It was guaranteed to miss him only for the prelims, which may or may not have actually affected his play in MLS. But now we're missing him for at least 3 matches, which kind of sucks. Yeah. Thanks, MLS.
Yeah, well, and once again, you're getting Ozzy Alonso back, and there's going to be a chance to keep an eye on Wolf. It's going to be a chance to keep an eye on Cobb at the back to help things out there as well. So it'll be a very, very interesting process with the youngins and some guy named Caleb Wiley too. It'd be very, very interesting to see how teams navigate all this stuff. So, all right, Bart, final thought from you about anything in particular before we go.
Yeah, look, I think that the reports yesterday from Doug McIntyre that two things that were reported. One, Southampton let Matt Crocker go early to kind of actually become and start being full-time the sporting director for U.S. Soccer. That's a big plus. That is probably the reason why the report came out, same article by Doug, that we have supposedly talked to 10 or more candidates for this coaching job. Interviewed was the term, right? Interviewed. Now, we've all been through an interview process for corporate jobs. That could be that there was an initial conversation. It could be that they got multiple interviews down the line.
Yeah.
I think that is a big positive. And though it has been confirmed that U.S. Soccer talked to, 30 plus people before somehow landing on Greg Berhalter. The fact was that they only reportedly interviewed 2 managers. So the fact that we have interviewed 10 managers from lots of different backgrounds is a big plus. I think that is one thing that we can say that is different about this managerial search. I know it's taken a long time. I am also getting tired of that. But yeah, I mean, I think that is good. I think some of the names are good. I mean, Hugo Perez, if he's actually been interviewed, that's a fantastic look. Again, Patrick Vieira, I think, would be a great shout. Thierry Henry is one.
Yep.
Pellegrino Matarazzo is another one who,
Yes.
all the, Luis Enrique, which I'm not quite sure would be a great manager for the U.S. national team, but hey, he would be fun to have in press conferences. Those are good names, and that's a good thing.
And also on the board, the discussion that's out there being floated, the 3GB and Las Águilas, Club America.
I am curious, but I think we struggle with U.S. managers in the Premier League or other leagues in Europe getting doubted from the moment they're hired.
I choke and freak out, but that's another thing.
I can't imagine how the Mexican fans will respect. Granted, he beat them every time, 3 times in a row. So I don't know. Maybe that'll give him some respect, but that would be fun.
Nick, final thought from you before we.
It's silly season. Check your sources.
Mm-hmm.
Check accounts that the name is spelled correctly, especially in this magical blue check world that we live in now. Don't believe everything you see. Do some due diligence on, what you're retweeting and getting emotionally invested in. But outside of that, it's silly season. It's silly is fun. So enjoy the idiocy. It's okay to enjoy this level of idiocy. There's too much other stupid things happening in the world. So just enjoy silly season for what it is. It's a reality show gone haywire.
Yes, absolutely true. And hopefully if Bart is awake, he'll come and join us again, 9:00 half hour on Friday morning to talk about what happens on Thursday night, because it's going to be a late night for those who are watching the U.S. and Mexico. So that is a show, and thanks for hanging out with us on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow at normal time, 9:05. And so we'll be going through everything. And also on Thursday night, remember, Atlanta United 2, Columbus Crew 2 from historic Crew Stadium. We will have that game on the network as well, pregame 15 minutes before kickoff with the Twos and Columbus on a Thursday, 8:00 once again early. So us out, and that's when we head back to Atlanta for all of about 25 minutes before the weekend kicks back in. So, Bart, since you have never done this, I do not believe in the history of the show. Bart Keeler, send us home.
Mucha plata, y'all.
See, that wasn't that hard. That's good stuff. Since it's the end of the show, that means we get to do this. We'll do it again tomorrow morning, 9:05.